Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
We continue with our 18th birthday celebrations, and one of our longtime friends and market masters, Ramesh Damani, is joining us now. Ramesh, thank you very much for joining us. It's very important for us that you are part of our birthday celebrations. First up, the markets are not in the greenest of shades as we celebrate our 18th birthday. Is that an opportunity to buy?
Lata and to the whole gang at CNBC, first of all, many, many hearty congratulations on your 18th birthday. I think as someone said, the story of your channel is the history of modern business India. So you've documented it, covered it so meticulously. So big congratulations to you and your team out there. It's been a pleasure to be associated with this channel over so many years. In fact, I've grown up with your channel. So thank you so much for that opportunity. In terms of the market not being healthy, I take exception to that, Lata, because, you know, if you are a enophile, the one who likes wine, you know, the best year was, say, 2000, 2001, when the Bordeaux collection was at its best. I think the market has still been extremely, 2017 has been a vintage year for global equity markets, across emerging markets, across emerged markets. I mean, you haven't had a better year than 2017 in a long, long time. So if there's a bit of correction because at the end of the year, profit taking, or because of some nervousness, I don't see any reason to panic about that.
Okay. Ramesh, hi, good morning.
And thank you for that very generous praise. Try and live up to it, we will.
Yeah, very sweet thoughts coming in from you. You've been catching trends for so many years
Thank you,
now.
Sonia.
What is your crystal ball telling you with respect to what 2018 could look like?
Sonia, you weren't on the Diwali show, but I was sitting with Lata and Anuj on the Diwali show. And I mentioned the themes that, look to me good from a longish perspective, not necessarily for a couple of quarters, but over the next few years or maybe over the next 5 years. I'd mentioned quick service restaurants, because I think that's a good example of how we play informal economy to formal economy. I think any technology changes will help that sector. I've been very bullish on cybersecurity over the last year or so. To be honest, the stock hasn't performed. But you start looking at the results that came out in Q2, you'll find companies in there that have, in a decent quarter, after paying 30% tax, produce 40% net margins. So when growth comes into these sectors, I think these stocks will get re-rated. Currently, they're available at fairly cheap PEs. So I think cybersecurity will be the other one that I'm looking at. Some other themes you mentioned is property, because the affordable housing theme of the Prime Minister, I think catches the eye. That'll do well. So those themes that we suggested in 2017 Diwali probably will continue for the next few years and beyond.
Ramesh, good morning. On Diwali day, you also told us that you of course, are enjoying, as a grandfather now. How's the last 4 or 5 months been as a grandfather?
Yes.
And any
I think Sonia will understand it. I see a new baby. It's a miracle of life, and we really enjoy it. It's been a pleasure to have him at home, and every day is you look forward to not the markets but just his musings also.
Yeah, you also told us that it's a good time to start investing, of course, for your grandkid. You told us about a couple of themes. Any interesting stock idea, Ramesh, that's cropped up in your mind over the last 6 months? I mean, if you want to review.
Yeah, Anuj, as you know, unfortunately, due to SEBI regulations, I can't discuss individual stock ideas. But we had suggested, QSR, services industries, food packaging, cybersecurity. And I tend to remain bullish on all of this. I think the question investors need to ask themselves, there is some nervousness on the street. It may be due to Gujarat election results due in mid-December. It may be due to year-end profit taking. But there is some nervousness. But here's the question you ask yourself. Do you feel that we are at a bull market top? In which case, of course, you need to be selling and raising cash. But if you feel it's a correction, I think people who sold the corrections have lived to regret it. I think what has happened is that the first time global markets are firing on all. This global economic growth has come back in the world, and you'll have China, US, and Japan at different stages. While the US might be at the point of raising interest rates, I think in Europe and Japan and China, interest rates are going to remain low for the next 2-3 years. So I think a good cocktail mix of global economic activity, also in India, will, propel markets higher in 2018. We always are cautious, but I have no reason to be scared that this bull market is ending, Lata.
Okay, Ramesh, what about the smokestack sector? Well, we shouldn't call IT smokestack, it's not smoke. But nevertheless, do you think some of them have been able to reinvent themselves, as well PSU banks?
I think they have. I think, like I told you, there are sectors in the technology space, whether it's Aadhaar linked or whether it's, Service Bureau linked or whether it's cybersecurity. They're producing phenomenal results. So I think you kind of need to shift through the sands and see where the opportunity set lies. In terms of smokestack industries, I think I have not been very bullish on banks, either public or private, for a long period of time. But I would suggest that large, well-capitalized PSU banks should be looked at this point, including, I think, particularly the largest, because I think now with this NCLT auction going to happen in February and March, I think there's a serious possibility that some of it will be written back. Some of the auctions, the provisions that are already made will be written back. So there's a good chance that the market will re-rate the stocks fundamentally. And also, if you look technically, these are making 10, 12-year breakouts, which tend to be very bullish for the stocks. So particularly among the very largest of the PSU banks, I would tend to put some money in there.
We were speaking with Sunil Singhania yesterday, and he was telling us how there's so much money that has come into this market through the mutual fund route, especially in the month of November. I mean, he was talking about figures like 25,000 crores. What's the sense you're getting about the local money now? Because at 32,000 on the Sensex, there's definitely some amount of jitters with respect to the domestic fraternity. Do you still expect volumes of money to come in?
It might be slowing a little bit, but I expect it to continue, Sonia, because domestic investors have discovered, a new bromance, if you will, with equity markets. I think things move the pendulum from one extreme to the other extreme, and I think and that will provide liquidity. I think finally they've discovered a good thing. Just remember, Sonia, let me just make the point I made repeatedly on your channel, is that if there's a basketball game going on, and people with 5 foot or people with 7 footers are on an opposite team, which would you bet on? I think obviously we would bet on the 7 footers. With equity investing, because long-term capital gains are tax-free, it's such a huge advantage that I think the Indian public is now realizing that rather than pay 30% tax on poor or mediocre returns, why not take the 25% we got last year and pay no taxes on that? I think that is just such a powerful theme resonating through equity markets. And unless this changed in the budget, I think it will continue to resonate.
Okay, by the way, just want to keep an eye on global screen, because a couple of markets like Shanghai, Kospi, even Taiwan, they've all moved to low point of the day right now. So, Ramesh, the global picture has turned a bit murky, right? And we may want to blame our current weakness on the Gujarat uncertainty, but we have performed in line with what the MSCI Emerging Market Index has done. Your thoughts on the global picture?
I mean, we have performed, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that you make any year you take a 20% gain, I'll take it, because that's, hugely powerful wealth creation. There is some thought that the US market could be topping out because the kind of moves that, say, a Google or a Facebook or Amazon have had. But I don't see any euphoria yet there. I mean, bull markets peak out when there's huge amount of euphoria and there's huge amount of debt, leverage in the system to buy shares, and, a lot of nonsense takes place. I don't see any of that right now in America. I mean, I've been circumspect on the American market from time to time. But, it seems like economic growth is good. Corporate profits are at historical highs, so they won't go higher. But interest rates will remain. I mean, let me take you back, Anuj, when we had this monetary stimulus package going on with the Fed, and everyone, including me, assumed that the minute the Fed withdrew the package, the markets and all asset classes would go in a tailspin. Well, the Fed stopped stimulating in 14 and started buying back, as a matter of fact. And yet, employment has increased, earnings have increased, and, markets have increased. So, there's reason to believe that the Fed maybe administered the right medicine this time, and the markets have graduated to an era of low interest rate, benign economic activity. And, this will continue for the next few years. I mean, I don't see any reason to say let's sell and get out. I mean, you could have said that in 2010, 2012, 2014. I think the only solid reason is this economic expansion in America has gone on since 2008. 10 years into a bull market. I mean, that's pretty long legs. But I think we're probably seeing a record being made out there.
Bitcoin is not the froth that might bring in, that might pull down, that might become a domino at some point.
I think I have no doubt it is. I mean, I just can't imagine the value. But put it in perspective, Lata. Bitcoin even has these very, very lofty valuations. The entire Bitcoin industry is worth $250, $225 billion,
Yeah,
all right?
that's right.
Equity markets globally are worth maybe $45, $50 billion. So it's a drop in the bucket. I mean, the market corrects itself. All the sectors are correcting itself, whether it's pharma in India, tech in India, or globally, say, metals. They correct themselves and they kind of move on. So, you know, while Bitcoin is clearly an example of excess is going on in the marketplace, it's not enough to derail valuations in equity markets.
Okay, well, just before we let you go, let me also personally congratulate you on becoming a grandfather. And since your grandson is going to be 18 one day, and we are 18 today, if you had to buy one stock for him now and, you know, keep it for his 18th birthday, which one would it be? Let me make it easier for you. Between, say, Reliance, L&T, Asian Paints, Maruti, what would you pick?
You know, I'd buy something in the quick service place because I think one, you're going from informal to formal, urbanization, women working out of the home, and I think basic food consumption patterns aren't going to change the next decade or so. A lot of other industries will be threatened technologically. So I would look at particularly in the restaurant dining type of concepts. Because I think this is the business is still nascent in India and probably have a long runway. So if you ask me to put my money where my mouth is, I'd probably put it in that sector.
Yeah, I was going to say you've given us food for thought. Thank you very much, Ramesh Damani, for joining us today. It was a very special day for us and you are our very special guest.